Hello, Christopher Cowan here, and welcome to Beyond Perception. On today's show, we will be taking a look at our school's educational classroom settings and taking a glance at what hopefully will become a part of future classroom settings. As an alternative to the conventional teaching style, we will be focusing on a program that allows students to adhere to knowledge more efficiently. Originating and driven within the educational system, this program, called the EAST Project, began and has sustained itself as a grassroots collaboration between business and education. Begun in 1995 in Greenbrier High School in Arkansas, this program has since expanded to more than 200 schools with 2,000 students.
Welcome to the West Campus East Lab. In East Lab, we learn and become familiar with different kinds of high-tech professional software. Notice the new computers, software tutorial books, and of course, the high-tech equipment. Thousands of dollars have been put into the creation of the East Lab. After reading software tutorial books and completing hands-on exercises on the computer, East students choose community-based projects that will require the skill and knowledge they have acquired. After the students choose their projects and form groups, they begin working on them. And here is my co-presenter and good friend, Mike Watkins.
As an East Lab student here at West Campus, there are two people that keep us in line and make sure we're working on our projects. They are called facilitators rather than teachers. They do not actually teach us how to operate the programs. As explained before by Joy, students learn the programs on their own. Teachers are not involved in the direct learning process. Let's go meet them.
EAST is a great opportunity for students because it allows them to take some of the knowledge they learn in the classroom.
And then they take that learning and they apply it to real-world problems.
Students learn from actual practical application and solving their own problems, because that's where students really remember. When a teacher just stands up in front of the room and regurgitates information to them every day, students tune it out and they don't seem to keep it for very long.
Each class has freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors in it. And the growth that I've seen in just their social skills, their ability to stay on task, their cooperation, their collaborative skills is enormous.
The concept of EAST is an exciting one, where students learn from students.
And their enthusiasm for education was what really turned me on, and I thought if I could bring something like that to West Campus and kids could get turned on about education again, I thought it would be a great asset.
Now that you met the facilitators, let's hear what the students have to say.
The EAST philosophy is basically to take what we learn in the EAST class and to use it to somehow aid the community and to help out the community in some way.
The project process is pretty much you start off with an idea, a problem that you want to work on. You have to make sure it's a valid problem.
I like to work with computers, but when I came, I stayed because I like to work with the people.
Excellent. It's an excellent opportunity. And I feel that, this will be a great base for college for anyone who wants to go into something more high-tech.
Hello, and welcome back. We're here with Ms. Mary Ellen Taney, the facilitator of West Campus High School's East Lab program. Now, Mary Ellen, what was your motivation behind bringing the East Lab to West Campus High School?
Well, Chris, about 2 years ago, I was invited by the school district, Sacramento City Unified School District, and the California Department of Education to attend an informational meeting about the EAST project. Tim Stevenson, who founded the EAST project, was the main speaker, and he gave a wonderful talk about the EAST project. It was very exciting, and I thought, well, this is kind of interesting, and I thought maybe it might be a good fit. But it was when the students got up and gave their presentations, and these students were kids that were in EAST Labs in Arkansas and one young lady from Hawaii. And they basically gave a presentation about what EAST has meant to them, how they've grown through the EAST Lab, and gave us some information about the projects that they've done. And what really got me was, number one, was their enthusiasm and their joy about education, which you don't normally see kids excited about learning in a classroom today. And then it was their confidence and the poise for young kids, 13, 14, 15 years of age, to stand in front of a whole group of educators and talk. I thought, this is it, this is perfect. And it would be a perfect fit for West Campus.
So, as the facilitator, what exactly is your role in the EAST Lab?
As a facilitator, the key word is facilitator. I am not called a teacher there. I am not allowed to teach in that lab. I simply facilitate what is called student-centered learning. The students are totally responsible to learn the software or the equipment on their own. There are a variety of resources they can go to. The one resource they can't go to is me. And quite frankly, if they asked me a question about Softimage, which is an animation program, or some of the geographical information systems programs, I don't know anything about them. So, but I can facilitate, I can say to them, well, you need to go find a resource. Why don't you look on the internet, or why don't you ask a fellow student? But I am not allowed to answer the question. And I think that's the dynamic that you don't see in a traditional classroom.
Yeah, that's quite opposite from what we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
So, from a facilitator's standpoint, what would you say is, what exactly is the EAST program?
Well, let me explain, how the year goes with the EAST Lab. In September, the students apply the year before to get into the EAST Lab, and we basically don't look for technology-savvy kids. We just want, we'll take whatever we can get. And it's freshmen through seniors, so each class has a students from the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior class. And at the beginning of the year, we sit around a conference table and we discuss the different software we have, the different types of equipment we have. And we sort of decide, I don't decide, but the students decide what particular software or what equipment they would like to learn. At that point, they take off for their computers or the equipment, whatever it is, and they're on their own pretty much, except for the resources available to them through the EAST project and internet or software manufacturers, tutorials, things like that. About 3 months into the program, we come back to the table, and it's at that point where we take what they've learned and we ask them to apply that to solve some type of real-world problem. And typically they have to be community service-based projects, nonprofit organizations. Mm. So they get together and they form teams, and I facilitate it to the extent that I want to make sure that they know that they have to, you don't get on a team with your friends. You want to pick students that have the expertise in either the technology or whatever skills they have. It can be their math skills, their English skills, whatever it is, that they have the expertise to solve the problem. They form their teams. They run a project binder just like you would in industry, timelines, things like that. And they go out into the community and they try to find a problem they can solve. They develop a project, and then about now, and quite frankly next Monday, is the EAST conference in Sacramento at the Sacramento Convention Center, which will be attended by probably 40, 50 high schools throughout the state of California and Hawaii. At that point, they will compete with those students for judging on their booth, on their actual project, and then at the dinner that Tuesday night, awards will be given. And I always make it a point for them to realize that I'm not there to win. I mean, it'd be nice if we did win, but we're not there for that, but really for the excitement of being part of a conference like that, which most students don't ever get that kind of opportunity, and to compete and have to compete before real judges on the product that they produced. So that's basically it. And then when they come back to class, we pursue other programs that they might want to learn, and we do small pickup projects until June.
So how long have you been involved in the East project?
This is my second year.
Your second
in the
year.
East in the East Lab. Last year, when you first start out, you could only have 14 students in your class, and I had 3 classes.
Oh, wow.
2 I taught, and 1 as for a backup facilitator taught. This year, I have 4 classes and 22 students per class.
Oh, okay. So there's been a pretty good amount of interest in it then.
Yes, huge.
That's
Yeah.
good. So you've only been there for 2 years, but what sort of growth have you seen in the students who have been involved in the East Lab?
There's 2 types of growth that you see. Academic growth is obvious. They learn how to use programs, they learn how to use software, and they learn how to apply that. And that's the real beauty of that type of learning. But it's kind of the emotional growth and social growth that I am really more interested in seeing. And I often talk about a young man called, his name is Martin. His brother was a West Campus student. And I'm sure he told Martin, you need to take this class with Miss Taney. Well, Martin was a freshman. He came in and his eyes were wide open. He went, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? He was with freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, which he wasn't used to. He was very quiet and very shy. His brother, on the other hand, would fill up a room. But Martin was very quiet, very shy. He came in and he went to his computer, did his work, but you hardly ever heard a word out of him until the other students realized he had a lot of talent with graphics. And they started asking him, could you help me out? And this is a senior asking a freshman to help him out. By January, you could hear Martin in the back of the classroom laughing, talking, and it was like a whole new person. And when I did his evaluation, I asked him, what was the biggest thing that happened to you in the East Lab? And he said, I'm not shy anymore. I'm not afraid. And I thought that kind of growth, I think, is terrific. And the growth to be able to present in front of groups of people and to work with other members of your team and get along and get a project accomplished. I think it's huge, and I love watching that.
Right, so we're seeing different classes. We're seeing freshmen and seniors combining and working together, and we're not just seeing educational growth, we're seeing emotional growth and character development.
Exactly.
And those are important things. So we see the developments that the kids are going through. So as far as the community, what sort of impact would you say this program has had in the 1.5 years you've been facilitating?
The first year, we probably had maybe, I'm going to say, 9 projects that we did. The community, by the way, doesn't mean just Sacramento. It could be your school or the school next door or whatever. Our school benefited a lot by it because we got a website done. We did some work for the athletic department, which is a brand new department because we just went out on our own last year. So there was a lot of impact in the school community. But you know, that Arsonist Hunters project that they did was a big project for the Sacramento City Fire Department, and that had a direct impact on their ability to track arsonist patterns. So this year we see a lot more community projects.
Right, and we'll be talking more about the arsonist hunting programs. As far as finances go, how do you deal with the financial aspect of this program?
When we started the program, we started out with about $200,000, and that was to equip the lab, it was for training, it was for renovation, but we were required to spend the entire $200,000 in 1 year. So I was able to reserve for some supplies for this year. But at the end of this year, I'm out of money. I don't have any money. So it's up to us to figure out a way that we can sustain that lab. And in my role as a facilitator, again, it's not my responsibility to sustain it, it's the kids. So probably when we get back from conference, maybe a couple of weeks after that, I'm going to work with the kids on looking at, get on the internet and let's find some grants and let's write to some local community businesses in the community and see if we can show them what we're doing and the impact, because it's not right to just go out to business and say, hey, can you give me some money? You've got to convince them that what you're doing has value, and we've proven that, I think. So the students are going to be required to get out there and write some grants and to pursue funding through the community, and that's all we can do. There is no money in the state. So that's where we are.
So have you had many businesses volunteering to help out financially then?
We haven't pursued that yet.
Oh, okay.
No, that's what we're going to do next.
All right. So as far as expansion goes, are you planning any expansion? Anything
Well, like I
bigger?
mentioned earlier, the first year we had 3 classes. This year we have 4, and it appears that the interest is going to bump us to 6 classes next year. I will take 4 of them, and then my backup facilitator will take the other 2. So, and that's all we can do because you only have the lab 6 periods a day. And that's a lot of students to manage and a lot of projects to manage. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's exciting. It's because you become more visible when you have that many more projects in the community, and that's where we want to see some expansion.
So are there any particular projects that students have, like kinds of projects that students have been more interested in?
Let me
than
tell.
others?
Well, my goal this year was to get the kids more interested in using the GPS and the GIS systems. That's geographical positioning systems, and I wanted more projects with that because we have the equipment, but the kids were a little bit afraid of it. So I kind of forced their hand at that a little bit. So now we have some really interesting projects out there. The project going to conference this year is a bike rack mapping project, where the kids went downtown, and they did this through the City of Sacramento Alternative Modes Director, and that's alternative modes of transportation. And so the kids went downtown, they found all of the bike racks in the central downtown area to model. They took their GPS system, set them up, and they plotted them. Then they came back to the classroom, and with the GIS system, went in and created a map so that bikers can now come to get this map, and they can say, oh, I can park at Macy's because they have that particular bike rack there, or I can park at the City of Sacramento or whatever. So it's environmental because it's going to hopefully increase people using bicycles rather than cars.
Is there any particular, just briefly, any particular project that sticks out to you?
Well, I think my favorite's the Arsonist Hunters.
Okay.
So far. But I haven't really seen all of the projects. I know what they're thinking of doing, but I'm not sure, what it's going to be till after conference.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the show.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
And stop by the lab sometime.
I think I might do that.
The East Lab is a lab environment in which the learning is student-centered and project-based, service learning. In this lab, my role is a facilitator. The students are totally responsible for their own learning. We have a variety of very high-end software programs. We have very high-end equipment, including GPS systems, video editing equipment.
The Arsonist project was the fire department initially came to us and told us about their problems, about how they had trouble plotting arson fires. Their original map only mapped out in 1 square mile increments. So for instance, you wouldn't be able to see a whole pattern because it would go farther out than just that one small square. Our job was to make a new map in which you could see the patterns easily and you can plot them out easily. So instead of seeing a whole bunch of dots and not knowing what they are or where the patterns are going, you would be able to see them and, for instance, assign different colors to each different type of fire. So if you wanted to see a trash can fire in a particular month, you could turn off all other dots, all other layers, and you would see only those fires, and you would easily be able to see if they were going in a pattern or not.
Well, in East class, it feels more like as if you're going to work. You're free, and you're assigned a project, and there are timelines, there are due dates, etc., etc. And you're doing it on your own pace. You're learning everything as you go. The teacher is not teaching anything to you. You're doing everything yourself.
It is a very exciting learning experience that you get to go out of your school and communicate with other people. It's like the real world, like you would do in your own job. You get to communicate with people, learn to work with other people, and watch other people how they work in their own groups. It's a very different learning experience than what you get in the regular classroom.
The whole goal of the East Lab is that the students come in, take responsibility for their learning, and the technology and use those skills to solve real-world problems. The intent is that they make the connection between education and the real world.
We have one of the Arsonist Hunters team members, Sadaf Ashfaq, broadcasting live from West Campus's East Lab studio. So Sadaf, can you inform us in general what the goal of the Arson Hunters project is?
Basically, the goal of the Arsonist Hunters was to create a more efficient mapping system for the fire department. The original mapping system that they have didn't exactly map out arsonist patterns accurately, and it didn't show them the whole pattern at once. It only mapped out 1 square mile increments. So for instance, if you wanted to see, say, the whole pattern, you wouldn't be able to see it. You'd have to look at different screens, and that's not very efficient. But our job, when the Sacramento Fire Department came to us, they asked us to create a new mapping system which would better help them to see these patterns, and we created our map, and it has layers. It allows you to see different fires that are from different origins, and they have different dates, whatever you want to see, and it makes it very efficient to see patterns and other things that arsonists may be able to.
How has this aided the community?
Besides the fire department, I'm pretty sure it would help the community because, first of all, it can help convict arsonists. If you are on trial and you need to show solid proof, you can show the pattern to the court, and you don't need to cross-reference different screens and show, like, look at this pattern, and this screen is going this way. You can just show the whole picture and they will see the whole pattern. And it will keep the neighborhood safe from potential arsonists. If the fire department, say, catches a pattern and they know the next target, then they can perhaps stop it from happening.
So can you elaborate on some of the interfaces and how it makes the Sacramento Fire Department's job in finding fires easier?
We took some screenshots of our work, and these screenshots show a little bit of what we did. And these green spots here are showing some of the areas that we've highlighted. It shows the areas that we want to look at, and the mapping system it gives you zooming options. So instead of looking at everything just like this, the way it's so far away from your target, you can zoom in and look at it more detailed, more closely. And here it's showing you different color spots. I mean, one color can represent, say, a building fire, and another can represent a trash can fire. And you would be able to tell just by the color. And if you needed, say, more information, you could just roll your mouse, say, over a point, and it would give you the information that you needed.
How has this project benefited you?
Through this project, I believe I have acquired many skills, especially when in any career that a person takes, no matter what it is, it always requires people skills. You need to learn how to talk to people, how to collaborate, how to work in a team, how to ask others for help, use your resources. This project has helped me to do all of that, to learn how to do it and how to cooperate with others, to set certain deadlines and to meet them on time, and perhaps even go ahead of our timeline and perhaps go on and do things before they're actually due. And it really helps you know what the real world is like.
Do you think what you have learned will in any way contribute towards your future career?
I think what we do in the East Lab and the project that we have done will definitely help not only me but everyone else in no matter what career they take. They learn these skills, they learn how to use the resources, and they learn how to talk to people about their problems or maybe some information that they need. And it's really a good asset for any person because they can use these skills in any type of career they choose.
Well, that's great. I'm glad we had this opportunity to get some first-hand experience from a project coordinator. Thank you, Sadaf. And we are now joined with Roger Clemens from the Sacramento Fire Department. The fire department was one of the earliest adopters in the area to use the East Lab skills to come up with the Arsonist Hunters project. So Roger.
Yeah.
How did the fire department find out about the East Lab?
Oh, thanks for inviting me first off. Well, I was coaching a softball game. You know, I like coaching softball. And when I got wind of the program, I was coaching at West Sacramento High School, and I got in touch with the teacher, maybe facilitator there,
Mary Ellen Taney.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
And I got all the information and I brought it to the rest of the fire department and pretty much took off from there.
Wow. So what was the rest of the fire department's reaction when they found out that high school students were doing these projects?
We were like, whoa. We were pretty amazed. You know, they were pretty professional. I mean, everything that they did, we even started working on some certain projects to give them, and you know, pretty much things that would help our department, things that we were having problems with.
Okay. What sort of difficulties was the fire department having that you enlisted the East Lab to help with?
Well, Sacramento Fire Department, we were having quite a couple problems. One was we needed to work on a fire and safety plan, which was a high priority. Also, we needed to come up with a training video to help train people that wanted to become firefighters like me and volunteers. And the last one that we wanted to come up with was a, how would you call it, like a fire tracker thing that would track people that make fires, and then we would know that they track fires, and then we would catch them based on their fire abilities that they put out.
The Arsonist Hunter program?
Yeah, that's what it's called, in short.
So, well, these projects sound like difficult things, major accomplishments for even a professional company. So, I gotta ask you, why did you choose a bunch of high school students in the East Lab program to do these for you?
Because, one, their profession was, or they're very professional in the things that they do, and we liked them. They were doing some pretty cool stuff, you know. The programs and stuff that they did previously were great, so we decided to go with them.
So on a professional level, what would you say impressed you the most about the East Lab students?
Our first meeting that we had with them, we were very confident with them. We also gave them a lot of disclosed information not to give out, and they didn't do that at all. And also, they kept in constant contact with us, which not even a lot of professional consultants do. So we were even more impressed with that.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Been one pleasure, yeah.
The Sacramento Fire Department really has a golden program that the East Lab has made for them. It's really impressive to see that East Lab students are able to work within the community and produce such fascinating services. Well, to wrap up the show, I'd like to say thank you to all that were on the show today. And thank you for watching this. This is Christopher Cowan signing off. You've been watching Beyond Perception. Good night.
You now have some idea of what the EAST project is and have heard what the students and facilitators have said.
Think about what you can do in East Lab and how you can help your communities. Think of the valuable skills you will acquire that will later benefit you in college and possibly in your future occupation.
To apply for admission, simply obtain an application from West Campus High School's technical coordinator, Ms. Taney. For all sophomores, juniors, and incoming freshmen who wish to be part of the EAST project, check the box next to the EAST Lab on your course selection sheet.
For all other questions, call the number at the bottom of your screen, 916-277-6945. Ms. Taney will be happy to answer your questions and concerns.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this video and encourage you to check out West Campus High School's newest edition, the EAST Lab.